So if you're a crocheter and you've sometimes felt a little bit left out, like you are a supporting actor in someone else's story, like all these great things are happening, but they're happening to other people and you're sitting on the sidelines and you don't really have any control of all these things that are happening all around you, then I want to talk to you about a term called main character energy and how this applies to us as crocheters. So I'm going to read off my notes what the definition of main character energy is. It's a characteristic that describes how a person prioritizes themselves and their own happiness. And how I interpret this is by feeling empowered, by living life in a way that fulfills me, by projecting confidence but also contentment. Not like out there envying what other people have, not wishing I was doing what they were doing, like really grasping my own life and making intentional decisions about how things go. And this doesn't mean I'm always going to get the results I'm looking for, but it means I'm making an effort to prioritize my health and my well-being. When I started looking into this, I realized, like, for starters, we're already kind of doing this as crocheters, but I want to talk a little bit more about how this actually applies to us and how we can really bring out our main character energy through crochet. Now, sometimes that term, even though it's a relatively new term, some people might take it a little bit on a negative type of way. And so as a disclaimer, I just want to point out that I'm not saying that you should be neglecting other people in your life because you're only thinking of yourselves, or, you're putting other people in danger because you're not being considerate, or that you're being rude to those people around you. Like, I'm not saying any of that. I'm going to put a link down in the description box to a video I saw by Dr. Ramani, and she goes into depth a little more just about the positives and what might take it too far if that is a problem. So if you're looking for like a clinical, psychological definition and viewpoint of what main character energy is, check out that video, but there's nothing crochet related in that one. So why don't we go ahead and get started talking about how crochet pertains to you living your main character energy. And the very first thing is that you've got this hobby that does fulfill you and brings you joy. It doesn't matter who thinks it's cool or who thinks it's not cool. You're doing something for you that promotes your mental health and your well-being. And I mean, we've talked about in multiple videos how crochet is so great for your mental health and lowering stress. And you're already one step into living in your main character energy just by having this hobby of crochet. What kind of main character doesn't have fabulous wardrobe and accessories? And while I'm kind of being a little silly there, I'm also making a point that we as crocheters have the ability to make ourselves so many wearables, so many accessories, so many things for our home that are totally customized for us. And, we can pick out the fiber, the color, the size and measurements. Like literally everything is customizable by us, for us. I've got a project. All I need to do is sew in the ends here, but I'm super excited about wearing it. This is the back of it right here. Okay, here we go. I was showing you the inside of it accidentally. So this is the back of it right here. And for me, this vest just feels so Shannon. I definitely have some hippie tendencies, and I just love, like, all of these colors are colors I love. It's gonna go with, like, I can just throw this over so many of my dresses that I have because it'll all coordinate. I'm picturing who I am as the main character. This just totally Like I said, it's a total Shannon piece, so I am very excited about this, and I know when I wear this, I am going to feel very confident and content knowing that this was so, like, this could not be more custom for me. But that goes as far as like all the bags you can make. You've got crochet hats, scarves. It is absolutely endless the amount of things that you can customize in your favorite colors and textures and wear those proudly out and about. And that leads me to the next thing I want you to do as you're like reclaiming your main character energy, and that's going to be accept compliments when they come in. I'm not saying, you know, brag about things, make a big deal about it, or get a big head. I'm not saying any of those. But what I am saying is you can most definitely accept a compliment. If someone says, that's a beautiful scarf, you can proudly and still humbly say, thank you. I appreciate you saying that because I made it. That's all you need to do is just accept that compliment, because a main character is going to be very gracious about those compliments coming in and not feel insecure about them and not worry about them. She's just gonna say thank you and move on with her day. I've got a video that just came out, and I will go ahead and link that for you, where I discuss that a little bit further about not being able to accept compliments because of being critical and having some perfectionist tendencies. So I will go ahead and link that up here if you think you might want a little bit more help in that department. Another thing that a main character is going to do is be in control of their finances and their decisions. A main character is going to feel confident in making decisions and not get swept up in other people's ideas of what they should buy. So by other people's ideas, I'm talking about, you know, yarn companies, stores, yarn influencers, like all sorts of things. If you're getting that feeling like you're just jumping on the bandwagon, that might be a clue that it's not really something you want to do, that you're just feeling a little bit left out, like it's some FOMO, and you might be listening to those other voices, those other influences telling you, making you think that you want to make these purchases. But as a main character, you are going to be making informed decisions that benefit you. You're going to be purchasing yarn that you love at the time you want to purchase it. I think that in and itself is very empowering right there. Another thing a main character is going to do is use the good yarn. I've got a video coming out shortly, and that's going to be with Mary from Slow Crochet, where we're working on going through our good yarn and making a project with some of it for ourselves. And I think that's so important that you have that yarn. You bought it for a reason. You must have loved it. You deserve to have a garment or accessory made out of that yarn, out of the good yarn. The main character definitely deserves good yarn. And everybody's definition of good yarn is different. I'm not implying it needs to be any certain thing, but I just mean don't save your best yarns for someone else or for a rainy day. Use those good yarns for you, the main character of your own story. I do have a couple of things here that are don'ts for main character energy, and the main character is not going to take on projects that aren't good for them. What I mean by this is when someone asks you to do a project, sometimes you do have to say no. Some people have a very hard time saying no. I have had times where I have said no super easy in a heartbeat no when someone showed me a project that was either way too difficult, way too time consuming, way too expensive, or like in a couple cases a combination of those three things. But there's also been another time where someone had asked me to make some things, and you know, I felt a little bit cringy inside about saying no, but it wasn't in my best interest to take on these projects. You know, I still need to keep things going here on the channel. I have projects that I want to make, you know, for my own enjoyment, for me to wear. And unfortunately, you know, doing these projects for someone else just didn't fit into that at all. So there was like that little smidge that just made me feel a little about saying, like, I think it was guilt. but I felt a little bit guilty about saying no. But the main character is not going to let those outside forces pressure them into taking on things that are not in their best interest. Now, if someone asks you to make something and you absolutely want to do it, then absolutely do it. I'm definitely not saying that. I mean, I have people tell me all the time, like their grandkids ask for things and they do it in a heartbeat. Absolutely, I would too. Another thing that a main character with main character energy is not going to do is make projects that they don't want to do. And I know that sounds like the last one, but I'm going somewhere different with this, I promise. I recently had a video about a popular trend on Instagram, and it was called the mob wife aesthetic. And a lot of people were on board with it, but a lot of other people were just like, nope, I am not a fan of faux fur yarn, not gonna do it. And that's just fine. That is something where it's important to not be following and chasing down trends just to keep up or to be popular. A main character knows what they like, and they're not going to waste their time, working with a yarn that isn't good for them or they're never going to wear. There's so many trends out there, and maybe it's a certain type of granny square that's going around that's popular, or a certain type of bag that's going around. Or like for me, I don't really enjoy making amigurumi. Like, I think they're adorable and I love seeing other people make them, but for me, I don't enjoy making them. So I'm not going to put a bunch of that on my channel because for me, I know it's not going to make me happy. But you know what does make me happy? Talking about yarn and connecting with you in the comments, that makes me happy. So I would rather devote my energy to those things than to doing something that I'm going to dread. Another way this can present itself is if you're a person who does sales. So if it's market sales, you might notice that at certain markets, certain things are selling. There might be a booth with tons of colorful amigurumi. Sorry, amigurumi lovers, I'm bringing that up again. But there might be a booth with tons of colorful amigurumis and they are selling like hotcakes, but your items aren't. Now, you could do two things. You could make a bunch of amigurumi to sell because you see someone else doing it, even though you don't want to make them. Or you could find the right customers for what you're making. It could be that you love making intricate shawls out of luxury fibers. And probably a craft fair isn't going to be the right group of people for that if they're wanting to buy like an $8 or a $10 little plushie. By being true to yourself and being true to your main character energy, you continue making those items you love and then just figuring out who those supporting actors are, which would be your ideal customer and where they shop. Maybe it's a boutique that you could sell your products on commission at. Maybe it's an online boutique you set up. Maybe it's Etsy. Maybe it's any of those things. But what you've done is you haven't compromised the things you love and you're staying true to yourself and your energy. I'm going to check and make sure I didn't miss anything in my notes. And the absolute very last thing I have for you to exude main character energy, and it's both the easiest thing to do and the hardest thing to do. It's crocheting in public. Maybe this is easy for you. Maybe you would feel embarrassed and never do it. I don't know. I have taken crochet projects to some family reunions where we were sitting there for, 6 or 8 hours and I wanted something to do. I also took my crochet and sat at a car dealership for 4 hours while stuff was getting done there. And, a few people did stare at me at the dealership for sure. I don't care. I just did my thing in my world and didn't after a while, didn't even notice anyone was staring at me. And that's what main character energy is doing what you love and just letting the world go by. And if they look at you, they look at you. If you catch their eye, you catch their eye, but you're doing what's important to you and what makes you feel good. There's a 2006 movie called The Holiday that I absolutely love. and it's starring like Cameron Diaz, Jude Law, Kate Winslet, and Jack Black. And Kate Winslet's character is like the definition of someone coming into their main character energy. So, you know, she always felt like she was a secondary character in her own life. And it wasn't until she started prioritizing herself in a healthy way that things really started coming together. I absolutely love that movie. Like, it's a little bit of a crier at times. I absolutely love it. If you have seen that movie and you love it too, please let me know down in the comments. I know that part isn't crochet related, but I absolutely love it. And I think it's such a good explanation of main character energy. So if you found this helpful, please let me know. I am going to have a video right up here for you. And I want to thank you so much for talking yarn with me. I have enjoyed this so much lately. Really getting in and talking about like yarn in real life. Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. Bye.